What a pleasure to me today to welcome Dr. Jim Conroy and Basia Alexander to speak with us about partnership with nature, plant consciousness, and things that all of you can do to work directly with plants and facilitate their well-being. It has been my real honor to study with Jim and Basia. And before we get started with their wonderful content, let me tell you about them. Jim Conroy has a PhD in plant pathology and worked for over 30 years in the corporate agricultural chemical industry. Since a life-changing flash of insight in 2002, he has been a nature communicator, the tree whisperer, a master biobalancer, and the developer of dimensional light work. Dr. Jim gets inside the trees or plants world and uses his intuitive perception, sensory sensitivity, and emotions to receive knowings about how their inner functionality is compromised and what he or those who study with him can do to assist the tree or plant. He has come to know trees as sentient and dimensional beings living as part of an intelligent ecosystem and how they are connected with their communities. Basia Alexander directs the educational and philanthropic activities of the BioBalia Institute and of partnerwithnature.org, which she co-founded with Jim Conroy. She is a leader in the new field of conscious co-creativity. So absolutely perfectly aligned with what we're offering in this event. An expert nature communicator, Basia leads workshops and environmental outreach efforts, produces innovative curriculum, and writes on topics of health, personal transformation, creativity, and spirituality. Jim and Basia, I am thrilled to have you here. As you know, I think your work with plants, with trees, and with ecosystems is tremendously important. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chara. Thank you so much.
It's a real pleasure and honor to be here with you in your conference and to have this opportunity to spread our ideas. That's what we're all about, is making sure people understand what's possible for them and for co-creating a livable planet.
Yes.
And I love your conference. Okay, this is a beautiful idea, beautiful concept. And I think it's very much needed at this time right now with all the global climate changes, all the changes that are happening for people in the world. I think this is the perfect time to get people back refocused on the earth and having that balance between earth and people and all sentient beings, all beings. Yes. And I think this is a perfect time to do that. So thank you, Chara. Beautiful.
Thank you. So we could talk for days, and toward the end of our conversation, we'll offer listeners ways that they can learn more from you. But I think where we agreed we would start as one point of entry into your amazing work is to have you tell us about partnership with nature and how it is a series of approaches that comes from the plant's point of view.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. Well, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen. There. Okay, great. So getting everything organized here. All right. So this is the problem, right? The current cultural mindset. People think they can control nature, and it becomes a vicious cycle. They believe they can control nature, they interfere, disrupt, overuse products, do excess building. That leads to ecological damage. And then, people think that they can control nature and they know how to fix things. So they interfere, they disrupt, etc. So it's a very negative cycle that's actually occurring. And nature herself is reacting in the extremes that we see with climate change and climate extremes to actually try to regain balance. So here we go there. So there's these fluctuations. Nature, of course, has a dynamic balance for herself, but right now it's operating in these wild fluctuations. So what's the solution? Well, in Chara's conference, we're asking, or she's asking, how do we regenerate well-being for ourselves and for the planet? And that is such an important question right now, because what we've been doing hasn't worked. So what are our answers? Partner with nature, heal ecological damage, and do mutual healing. Okay, so partnering with nature. I like to think of it like slow dancing. So when you dance with your partner, you're cooperating, you're in equality, you're coordinating together to beautiful music, right? So that's how we think of partnering. So to partner with nature, we want to come from the tree's point of view, which is like seeing through its eyes, standing in its roots, thinking like a tree, being in the tree's world, even being the tree, imagining oneself as being the tree. So let's try this for just a quick moment. Imagine coming from this tree's point of view, and you ask, what is your life like? And then imagine coming from this tree's point of view. What is your life like? Imagine coming from any tree's point of view and asking, what is your life like? So, how do you get an answer? The answer comes through the bioenergy overlap that's created when you are close to a tree. Your heart produces a bioenergy field, the tree produces a bioenergy field, and they overlap. The answer also comes through your intuition in consciousness. Okay, so why do we talk about mutual healing? Well, there's several points here that I want to make, and I'm going to make them a little bit slowly. So let's take one at a time. So culturally, this old paradigm that we're operating in, there's just been too much of the what's in it for me, and humans know best. And that's what we're attempting to shift with partnering with nature. But then what about expecting trees or forests to heal or bathe people? I know this is very popular now, and it's really okay. This is how we feel. It's really okay for people to receive benefits. But people must also give back to trees and nature mutually. That's why we call it mutual healing. There has to be a give and take, a two-way street. See, what most people don't know right now, and Dr. Jim is going to make very clear in his part of this talk, is that trees and forests everywhere are themselves stressed and sick. So it's a little iffy for us to think about going out to be with trees or nature. It would be like going to someone who is sick and saying, oh, please heal me. You know, they're already sick. They need help too. But they're very generous beings, so they try to help the best they can anyway. So we are for making this a mutual experience. So we say the word healing. Well, this is also a very new idea for a lot of people, that healing trees and forests is actually possible. Most people don't know this. It just doesn't come into the realm of that current culture. So we're going to invite you into a mutual healing meditation. But first, I want to ask Dr. Jim to talk about his experience.
Yeah, well, about 7 years ago or so, I was quite ill, and I had to go through a procedure where I had worked a medical procedure done on me for about 45 days straight. Okay, it was 5 days a week. I had this medical procedure done on me. And now understand, I had worked on these trees. I had been working on these trees for about 6 years before I asked the trees for a little bit of help. So, I used my holistic methods on them. I've been working on this whole property, actually, and not just these 2 trees, but the whole property, but mainly these 2 trees. So when I was going through those procedures for those 45 days, that 5 days a week, every day I'd go out and stand between these 2 trees. And what they do is like scan me, is what they do. I could feel them scanning me and finding the areas that need a little bit of adjustment, bring it back into sync inside of my body, and then go on and move up again, and then move down, stop again, work on me a little bit more, then go back down to my feet, and then start up again. And I'd stand there for probably 10, 15 minutes and allow those trees to just scan me and work on me. And it was a mutual healing. I was helping them, and now they wanted to help me. And so that was my experience. And by the way, I came through that procedure doing very, very good. Okay. And very well. And even though it's a medical procedure, I had no choice but to do the medical procedure. But using the holistic, working with the trees really helped me get through that and help my body get through it, so it could go on and be healthy during and even after that. I'll tell you one other instance here. There was another tree I went to right about the same time. I walked to the tree. It had these bleeding canker spots on it. I said to the tree, I said, gee, I can help you clear those spots. The tree says, you help me with my spots, I'll help you with your spots. Okay. So that's your example of mutual healing. Yeah. That's what happens. Yeah. Okay. And that's what they're definitely working. And I'll tell you some other examples a little bit later about this. So thank you. Go ahead, Basia.
So we're going to be giving what we call mindful methods, and then receiving scanning using tree whispering and nature communication. First, let me quickly remind you about this communication. So messages come through your bioenergy overlap and through your intuition in consciousness. Okay, so let's begin. So I invite you to get comfortable. And if you happen to be outside touching a tree, that's good. If not, simply hold your favorite tree in your mind's eye or in your heart. And if you want to, you can use these images of some of our favorite trees during this meditation process. So this guided visualization exercise will take about 12 minutes and will get us ready for the rest of our talk with Chara. So here are the steps we will follow. We'll do a brief connection process to feel in deep communication with your tree. Then I will guide you in finding out what your tree's state of health is. Actually, I'll be speaking for your tree about some of the ways that its functionality may be compromised, and many trees have similar problems. Then you'll tell the tree one thing you want for your health. In fact, think about that now. Come up with a few key words about what you want for your health and well-being. For example, could be strong immune system, or de-stress and calm down, or heal this knee or repair my digestion. So I'll give you just a moment. Okay, so then I'm going to guide you in a process where we'll be alternating, giving a healing message to the tree and then receiving scanning. We call the messages healing whispers. They're short phrases, intentional messages conveyed from your heart and mind. And then you can open yourself to receiving what Jim calls scanning, or whatever you may receive from your tree. You may have a slightly different experience. And then we'll go back and forth in this alternating give and receive process about 5 times. Then we'll thank the tree and return to normal awareness. So let's begin. Settle into your chair. And in the quiet of your mind, simply ask for your invisible, divine, or spiritual helpers to be present with you and to keep you safe. Breathe gently. And imagine being with your favorite tree or in your favorite outdoor place. If you can actually be with the tree and touch it, that's great. And ask, do I have permission to engage in this mutual healing exercise with you? And you'll probably feel a sense of calm. That means you have permission. If you don't feel calm, go to another tree or imagine another tree or place, and you can always return to this one later. Now, imagine that some part of yourself goes over to the tree and overlaps with it. And you might even imagine becoming the tree. Imagine your feet in the earth, growing roots. Imagine your arms stretched upward toward the sun, your fingers growing leaves and absorbing the heat and energy of the sun, making food. Imagine rainwater soaking up from the earth into your body. Imagine that you can sense what this tree's life is like, living in its ecosystem, living in changing seasons, living with other trees. Standing in one place for a lifetime. Imagine that you and the tree are surrounded with light energy. When you do this later, again on your own, you can use sensory perception and intuition to ask your tree about its health. But for now, tune into your tree as I speak for it. My circulation system has blockages, so the fluids don't flow well from my roots, through my tubes, to my leaves. And then they don't flow well back down from my leaves, through my tubes, to my roots. I need to make more food in my leaves and then get it circulated throughout my structure. My parts and systems aren't well coordinated. They are not timed in sync. I am not as connected with other trees as I would like. We need to sing our unique songs to each other, share vibration with each other. People disrupt me. Weather is changing around me, so I need to be balanced to those disruptions. My goal is to grow, and I want to be unified with my fellow tree communities and ecosystem communities so that we all support each other's goals. Thank you. Take a deep breath now and note your impressions about your tree's health. And now, to remind yourself, just say those few key words again about the health improvement you want. And we'll do the mutual healing in an alternating style. There are 5 healing whispers. So begin by whispering to the tree. Join with other trees and all ecosystem members so that all bioenergy fields are connected and interconnected. Now hold your heart with one or both hands. Recall your health goal and receive. Release your hand and whisper to the tree. Open flow. Distribute growth energy where it is needed. And now hold your own heart. Recall your health goal and receive. Release your hand. Whisper to the tree. Orchestrate parts, systems, and functions to be in sync. Produce enough food. Clear blockages. Move fluids. Move food. And grow more roots, leaves, and tubes. And now hold your heart, recall your health goal, and receive. And now to the tree, whisper again. Align with your innate potentials for health and growth. Be balanced with changing conditions or interferences. And now hold your heart, recall your health goal, and receive. And whisper number 5 to the tree. Life energy. Shift decline to growth in repeating cycles. Light energy. Carry the health goals of the tree out in the heartbeat of universal rhythm. And hold your heart. Recall your health goal and receive. Okay, you can release your hand. And now we're going to make an affirmation. And please do this by speaking aloud. I am your partner. I am your partner. I seek a livable planet for all. I seek a livable planet for all. And now breathe comfortably and ask this of light energy. Light energy, carry my health goals out in the heartbeat of universal rhythm. And now breathe and thank the tree and thank yourself for doing this mutual healing process. And if you want to, you can write down some notes. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment here and ask Chara how that was and does she have any questions and all that.
That was so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. That is the kind of practice that, well, can heal everything on our planet. It was really interesting to me. The tree that came forth to me was a tree I like and respect very much, but it wasn't in the forefront of my consciousness until it very obviously was. And
Love it.
it's a massive sycamore at a retreat center near my house. It's a very healthy tree, literally a gigantic specimen sycamore. And she did need a little bit of support with flow in one area, but mostly she was coming forward to me today with teachings about what it looks like to be the kind of flourishing, powerful queen that she is. And she happens to live in very good circumstances. There's a pond down a maybe a couple 100 feet from her roots, and she has a lot of space and sunlight, and she's in sort of a place of honor at this retreat center. So it was really wonderful to spend time with her. Thank you.
Great, beautiful.
Oh, how nice.
How beautiful.
That's really great.
Yeah.
I actually had one of my favorite trees out in California come to me, and its name is Trelania. And it was very comforting, and we did the whole process together, and it was showing me, yes, it could certainly use a little more flow, and it could certainly use to be better connected, and to have, to have its health boosted in this way. So it was great, and I think that that's the kind of thing that everyone can experience, that closeness. Jim?
Yeah, I was working on all the trees in the picture that Basia showed,
Oh,
because I know all those trees, I know each one of them, and I know them quite well. And it was kind of like, how you guys doing? It's winter time. I know where all you are. I know it's winter time. How you doing? And I'm kind of working with them. You got all your parts, systems, and functions connected. You're doing okay, and kind of worked with them that way. So I enjoyed that in that sense. Just
You
kind
had
of
a little tree reunion. I want
Yeah.
to mark for people that if you simply practice this work with trees, you will be amazed. So whether or not the practice that Basia led just now was quite easy and flowing for you, or unfamiliar and a little challenging, keep practicing with this, because I truly agree with Jim and Basia. Probably everybody can do this. It is a learned skill. Just engage over time with a number of trees, and I think you'll be amazed at what you can experience and offer and receive.
thank you for that advice. That's good advice for people. And I mean, the three of us here right now on the screen, we have a lot of experience, but many of you who are viewing today and with us today may not. And if not, just go into it with that freedom and abandon, and know that the tree really is your partner and wants to help you, and just take what you get. Do it and take whatever you get and have fun with it.
Yeah, remember, the tree's your friend. The tree wants to work with the people. Okay, so all you have to do is just make a little effort in that direction, because the trees want to work with you.
Yeah.
So just make the effort, and they'll be there, and they'll help you to work with them. And that's what it's all about. They very much want to be co-creative and communicate with people. And that's what they're up to also. So it's not like, you have to worry, am I doing this right or anything like that? Yeah, you're doing it right. Exactly what you need to be doing. And you'll hear from the tree. The trees will talk to you. Just be with them, and they will talk to you. They will be with you. And that's the most important, because they want to. They want to.
And whether it's something you hear them talking to you, or there's a visualization, or there's a somatic feeling in your body, allow whatever happens.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's just like Chara said, that tree coming to you.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the idea. You didn't even think, you weren't even conscious of that tree. And all of a sudden it came to you. Yeah. It's saying, hey, I want to be in touch with you, so that's what it's all about. Yeah. Beautiful.
Oh, it's so true. And this kind of practice can really revitalize or completely renovate our sense that we're not alone here. We are meant to be in partnership with all the beings of nature. And it's not even so difficult to step into that partnership.
That's exactly
so,
right.
Jim, I know you have probably thousands of stories about your work with thousands of trees. Give us a story or two that will help people see even deeper into this work and how they might start to participate in it.
Well, let me talk about how we save trees a little bit first, and then I will get into some of the stories, because I have lots of stories, and the trees, they all want to work with this, but this is what I kind of do. I save trees, I heal them. And that's what I'm up to. That's what my purpose is in life. That's what it's all about. And what am I, and what do I mean there? You know, when trees become sick or stressed by climate change, their parts, systems, and functions are no longer, they're no longer in sync. And if I can give you an example of what that's like, you know, it's like if we human eat something, and what would happen if your digestive juices didn't go to work, you know? And then if that didn't go to work, then you wouldn't get the nutrition you need to carry on your body's functions. Okay, and that's kind of a simplified version of what can happen in a human. Well, that's what happens to the trees. Those parts, systems, and functions begin to break down. And then what happens is the connection between the trees and the plants, that begins to break down. They're no longer in connected, partnership, balanced, in sync or synergy within and between. So what we do is my system heals that. No one else does. That's what we're up to, is getting those trees back healthy again. So we heal them and getting them all back connected again, getting that whole ecosystem back connected again. And then we can do them, and then we can get the mutual healing going, because part of it is to give them the help they need, then they can be healing us. And that's what this is all about. So let me talk a little bit about the consciousness in trees. You know, humans have a brain. A plant's consciousness is their guiding light. Okay, it drives their goals and purposes. It drives what they do towards those goals and purposes. Okay, and this is a little saying that that Elizabeth Gilbert put out, and I like it because to me it speaks very well to the consciousness of trees and plants. They say that an oak tree is brought into creation by two forces at the same time. Obviously, there's the acorn from which it all begins, the seed which holds the promise and potential which grows into a tree. Everybody can see that. But only a few can recognize that there's another force operating here as well, the future tree itself, which wants so badly to exist that it pulls the acorn into being, drawing the seedling forth with longing out of the void, guiding the evolution from nothingness to maturity. In this respect, say the Zens, it is the oak tree that creates the very acorn from which it was born. That future tree itself, that's the consciousness I'm talking about. Okay, that's the consciousness in the tree. So what's that consciousness do? Well, the consciousness comes before form, just as in that saying I just read you there. It actually comes before form. And it's a guiding light, and it contains their goals, their ideal design or blueprint. Okay, I'm going to be an apple tree, I'm going to be an oak tree, okay, whatever that might be. It guides their innate potentials. If I'm an apple tree, I'm going to put on apples. If I'm an oak tree, I'm going to put on acorns, okay? That's the innate potentials. And everything has a purpose. Every being in nature has a purpose, okay, for being here. Even those weeds on the ground that people don't like in their garden, they have a purpose, and it's to cover the earth, to keep to hold down the soil. They absolutely have a purpose. Well, also plants perceive choices then, and then make decisions then make something like decisions based on those goals, ideals, and innate potentials. Okay, so they kind of do make choices. So let me give you a couple of examples of that. Over on the left there is a young willow tree. Okay, and you can see some leaves up on that willow tree. But what the tree is saying is, well, you know, those branches, these willows were in very bad shape when they were transplanted. And this willow says, well, I got all these blockages in these branches. Do I continue to push up through those branches to try and be a big, healthy tree that I want to be? Or am I better off just starting out by sending out new branches? So then what it decides is, it's okay, well, look, I need the food from these leaves in order to put out the new growth. So that's exactly what the tree does. It takes the food that it's making in those older branches and uses that to put out new to put out new branches. And then eventually those older branches just wither back and go on their merry way. And the tree goes on and flourish with the new branches. And that's kind of the decisions the tree makes. It's saying, look, I can grow branches easier by putting out new branches than I can by trying to work with these older block branches. Okay. And that's what the tree is doing. And that's the consciousness. That's that guiding light that's helping that tree. The tree in the center is saying, okay, do I evenly distribute food to all my growing points in spring? Or do I concentrate on putting on more vascular tissue, xylem and phloem? Xylem moves fluids up the tree, phloem moves food and fluids down the tree. Okay, and do I concentrate on that? Well, in this particular case, the tree needed some additional xylem and phloem. So it said, okay, I'm going to distribute the food here to put on more xylem and phloem first. Then I can grow better because I've got the vascular tissue I need to support that new growth. Okay, so it's kind of like that's how it works. The other one off to the right is a beautiful big old tree. I love this tree. I see it all the time and I work with it. I want to be less stressed, but do I use my food in spring to clear my blockages, or do I grow naturally? Sure. First of all, it's going to clear the blockages and then it can grow. Okay. Why should it try to force growth through block stems? That's what the tree is trying to do. So that's what these trees are doing. Anyway, so.
Did you want to go on with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what about stress in trees? What to do? It really it causes blockages in the trees, and it compromises their internal functionality. If they have blockages or that internal functionality is compromised, it's reduction in water and nutrients that the tree can uptake. If they can't uptake enough water and nutrients, then they can't make enough food. If they can't make enough food for themselves, then they can't grow. And then we have reduced growth. And I'll show you an example of this a little bit later. But this gets to be a cycle. And this is what turns the tree from being a healthy tree into a tree into decline. It can't make enough food to support itself, and then it absolutely goes into a decline cycle. So why can't trees and plants heal themselves? Well, it's a little like people, okay? When they get sick, then they get stuck, they get confused. And really the main thing is, and I've seen this many times, is they just can't manage their inner resources. They can't, it's kind of like a lot of times they'll just sit there, okay? Because what they'll say is, look, if I go this way and that doesn't work, I'm a goner. But if I do this, well, that might not work either. So then I'm a goner. So maybe I'll just sit here, okay? That's stuck, okay? That's what they do. They can't grow, and eventually they go into decline. And what happens is you see those cycles there, the circulation, like if circulation is blocked, then they can't make enough food for themselves in photosynthesis. They can't make enough food for themselves in photosynthesis. Then they can't grow. Okay.
I have to say, Jim, this sounds exactly like people too.
Yeah.
Right.
Like really.
It's really thought-provoking that so many of us get stuck and think, well, this new possibility is too risky. I can't do that. And this one's too risky. So I'll just be stuck and not thriving. Very interesting.
Yeah. It definitely is that case. So what we do is we go in and we work with the consciousness of that tree, find out what's not operating inside of that tree, and help it develop a path to healing. So that's what you do. I get into the consciousness. We collaborate with that consciousness of the tree. All right. And then we find out, it's by asking questions. I use my scientific knowledge to ask the right questions. I don't assume I know anything about what's going on. I ask. It's a yes/no process. Okay. And then intuitive hits come to me. Okay. From the tree. Yeah, I want this. I want that. I get it's permission-based system. What I do is I establish a context for healing for the tree, a path to healing for the tree. What, we need to get this connected to this, get connected to this, and then the tree can begin to heal itself. But I'm not doing the heal. Okay. I don't claim it all to do the heal. I'm kind of the go-between here. I just give that consciousness the information it needs to go on and heal the tree. Because remember, it's stuck. It doesn't quite know what to do. So I work with that consciousness, and it's kind of give and take process, because after a while I start talking to them. Well, you think you can try this? Yeah, I think we'll give it a try. Okay. And it's kind of like back and forth a little bit. Come on, you can give it a try, and I'll check back with you, see how you're doing, and then they go. And it isn't, there might be 15 things that are wrong inside of that tree that aren't connected inside of that tree. Don't have to get all 15. Get the 2 or 3 key things that are not connected. The tree will take care of the rest of those things. Okay, it'll get everything back connected again. Just find those 2 or 3 key things that are in there, and that's the nice part of this work. And you're not just clearing the symptoms, you're getting at the root of what the problem is. Okay, finding those 1, 2, or 3 key things that are off inside of the tree. And once we do that, then the tree can go on and help give that tree that path to healing. Then the tree is able to go on itself and heal itself. And that's what this is. That's what they're doing. Just give that consciousness that path to healing. And that's what the key is here. Okay. Basia, next.
Okay, do you want to let Chara maybe
Yeah.
ask a question?
Ask a question.
Well, no, that's just wonderful to hear you review that. I'm thinking it's sort of reminding me of something like an energetic chiropractic adjustment that you're doing on a tree or a plant. And, so too, the best human healers say, I'm not actually creating the healing here. I'm serving as a connecting point, a distributor of information, etc. So I think
That's right. Yeah, my guides and helpers and the intelligence of nature is what's guiding me. And the tree is guiding me too. It's kind of saying, it's telling me what's not operating. And it's kind of like a combination of things. And we kind of work all that out, and you give that tree that path to healing, and then it can go on. And it's fascinating. I've had many instances where I've actually felt the tree shift from a decline cycle back to a growth cycle. Not always, but very often. Very often I've actually felt that, and you can just actually feel it shift. I got to tell this story just very quickly. Yeah. There's a tree in Toronto, in a greenhouse in Toronto, and we were doing a class, and this woman happened to be overhearing it. She worked in the greenhouse, and we were doing a class up there. And she said, we have this tree, I don't know, it was from some foreign country in the greenhouse.
Malaysian.
Yeah, Malaysian.
Yeah,
and
in Canada, in the greenhouse.
And the tree was very, very sick. Okay, it was extremely sick. And they were dumping water on it. They were dumping nutrients on it. They were trying everything they could to save that tree. Well, I started to work with the tree, and I had the class there, and I started working, and all of a sudden, whoa, that tree just, boom, just shifted right up. You could actually feel the energy of that tree shift. Okay. And I knew it was well on its way, gonna get healthy. And then so I went back about several months later. I never called anybody. I just went back because I knew. Now you got to understand, I had to travel 7-8 hours to get up there, and I knew that tree was going to look good because I knew it had shifted. And sure enough, it did. In fact, their problem then was it's growing leaves up onto the glass of the greenhouse, and we're concerned about it pushing through the glass of the greenhouse. We're not sure what we're going to do about this now. So, that's a nice problem to have, So anyway, that's what it's all about. And it's mutual too, because the class felt it too. They felt the energy come back to them. okay, because that wasn't just that tree in the greenhouse, that one tree, all the plants were getting it, and the people were feeling that energy as well. And so it was a mutual healing as well. So,
beautiful. Oh, that's
okay.
a wonderful story. I know that today we're focused more on how you work with individual plants, but I'm thinking as you told that story that I know a lot of what you do also is working with a whole ecosystem, and people are going to have to study with you more outside of today's event to really understand that. But can you give people a sense of how you're doing that? Because this is incredibly crucial right now for more and more people to have the skills and the confidence to step into an ecosystem that's experiencing some challenge or imbalance and work with all or many of the beings living there. So
Yes.
give us just a taste of what that looks
Yeah.
like.
Right on time.
Right on time.
Yeah. Okay. Let me share the screen then. Okay. So
this is healing ecological damage. This is this was a major fire in California this past year. This was the Caldor fire, and probably about 500,000 acres. And we got out there in November. The fire was finished up in about early October, and so we got out there right in November because I wanted to work with the trees prior to winter, because I can help shift them, shift their cycles and help shift their growth patterns and work with the resources of the tree to help them out prior to winter, and then come back next spring and work with them again. But what the important thing I want to show you here, this is the cycle the trees were caught in before the fire. They had less food available, and that's due to global climate change and pollution. Okay, they just weren't able to make enough food for themselves. If they can't make enough food for themselves, they can't circulate the food, because what trees do, they break down the food. There's an energy release that drives circulation. So they can't make enough circulation for themselves. Okay, if they don't have enough food, they don't have enough circulation, then they're not going to grow very well. Okay, if they don't grow very well, they get less health, and then they come back into less food again. All right, so it's kind of like a downward spiral for the trees. Also, you have to understand that what was going on is, okay, these trees were susceptible, these made these trees susceptible to climate change, but the whole area was getting out of balance as well, because some of the species were more susceptible to the climate change than others. So what was happening is the species were getting out of balance in this fire area. Prior to the fire, the species were getting out of balance. So not only the single trees were going into decline, but the forest as a whole was going into decline. All right, so it's kind of like decline. So what's the forest do? Calls forth fire. Okay, it's a little hard for people to hear, but that's what happens. Calls forth fire. Sets everything to a ground level again, sets everything back to zero again, okay, for everybody. Now, some of those trees will live, yes, but it also sets it back to zero. So some of the other species, what can happen now is some new species not new species, but some new growth can occur in the forest now that is more tolerant to climate change, okay? They will actually adjust, and the plants will come up and be the same species. The species will come back into balance again, and they're going to be more tolerant of climate change. Okay, and that's what's going on. Now I got to tell you, there's one other angle to the whole thing. Fire gets the people out of there. Okay, so I got to tell you, there's no doubt about it. You say, oh, the people just come back and build. No, they won't. Sorry, doesn't quite work that way. Okay, few will come back, but not many. Plus the fact insurance rates go through the roof, and many people can't afford to come back anymore. Gives nature a chance to rebuild herself, go on and grow, and build the way she wants to build. And that's kind of what these fires are all about. So this was the downward spiral of the trees in the Caldor fire before the fire. Now this is what we did. This is the path to healing we did that the trees that were remaining in there to ask them to help them get back growing again. Those trees that had life in them. Not everyone does, okay, but many do. All right, and so we asked them. They use their stored food. This is their path to healing. Use a little stored food from the roots. Break down that food, drive some circulation, differentiate some tissues. We'll show you some pictures of this in a minute. Make some food, more health, and now you're not going to have to break down as much stored food anymore because you're starting to make food, and then you can just start that cycle all over again and keep that cycle going until the tree begins to leaf out and branch out, make enough food to fully support itself. And that's what goes on. What's our part in this whole thing? Yes, it's to work with them on this path to healing. But what do we really do is we help them manage their resources so that they don't fail. I got to tell you, very often what happens after fire is the trees, they'll start to grow again, but then they fail. Okay, because they can't manage their resources. They're too confused, like I talked about before. They're stuck or confused. They don't quite know what to do. And it's kind of work with them, help them, give them that path to healing. That's why we wanted to get out there in November before the winter came, help them give this path to healing. Then they'll have that through the winter, at least get them in the right cycle, get the energy flowing in an upward direction from decline back to growth again. And then we can go back in spring and work with them again. And that's what we were trying to do. This is a pictures of this is some redwoods in Paradise, California. Just give you an example here. We went out 3 times that year. This is off to the left is what the trees look like in March. Great story here. You got to know we treated on the outside of the town because at the time we weren't even sure if we could get into the town. And many of you heard about this Paradise fire. It was all over the press. And we weren't sure if we could even get into the town. So then we got in towards the town, and both Basia and I kind of need to use a bathroom. Okay. Well, let me tell you, when a town is flat like this town was flat. I mean, there wasn't anything left in this town, completely burned out. There wasn't a bathroom to be found. Okay. Except there was a church that managed to survive. Now, it got a little bit of damage, but it managed to survive. Okay. So we went, knocked on the church door, and we said, hey, can we use your bathroom? You know, they said, yeah, that's fine. And then they said, but can you tell us? And they asked what we do, and we told them what we do. And she said, well, can you tell us whether these trees are still alive? And I said, I sure can. I walked over the trees, asked permission, talked to the trees a little bit. And they said, yeah, we're alive. We'd really like to grow again. Help us out. Help us manage those resources. Help us get growing again, because we'd really like to grow. You can see what the trees look like in May. They started to put out some new growth, okay, in May. By July of that year, you can see some additional new growth. Now, we missed going there. This was in July of 19. We missed going there in 2020 because of the COVID. We didn't travel during COVID, but we did travel there in 2021. And this is what the trees look like. Okay, they came back. Now, you have to know that right on the other side of those trees, you see where that new building is. On front, between that new building and these trees, there was another building. Okay, and that was completely flat, completely burned. So you can know how severe that fire was right around those trees, but yet those trees made it. And again, what we do is we help those trees manage those inner resources, give them that path to healing, work with that consciousness of the tree to give them that path to healing, and then they can go on and grow. This is another tree. We call this tree Survivor. This was in around the Thomas fire in near Santa Barbara, and it's in Ojai, California. Okay, and just know that when we're in a forest, we don't just work with one tree. Okay, we work with the whole forest. Now, understand the whole forest is living in community. So the first thing we have to do is get that community back pulled again, get that community back pulled together again. Okay, get that whole ecosystem back connected again, get everybody back working together again. And then we can work with the individual trees. And then what we do is earmark certain trees that we're working with so we can see what kind of progress we get. That's what we're trying to do here. Okay, so it isn't like we're just working with one tree. We're working with the whole forest. Okay, now granted, we stop in many locations and treat many areas. Okay, we just don't treat one tree in the whole, or one area in the whole forest that burns. We stop in many areas and work with them, and then they can all connect up. All those communities can connect up and they can all get the treatment. And what I find is what the treatment is for one of them, it may not be exactly what the other one needs, but it's pretty close, because what's wrong with one of them is it's pretty close to what the others need, especially in fire situations. Again, you can see the progression of growth here all the way to July 2019. I always love this picture here, because you can see out of the fire off to the left there that the bark cracks on the tree is alive, it's cracks. Consciousness of that tree says, okay, I want to live. Pushes out a new bud, okay, a new growth just out of the crack in the bark. And then you can see it there off to the right again, how that grows. And then also, like I mentioned, trees do fail. This tree happened to be, came out just beautifully, but trees do fail. You can see the one branch off here in the picture on the left that did fail. But the whole idea is this is what could happen to the whole tree. But in this case, the whole tree did grow. But yeah, one branch did fail, and that's what happens. They just don't, somehow it just doesn't get the resources it needs. It fails, and that's what can happen to the whole tree as well. But we try to work with that, give that tree that path to healing, pull that ecosystem together, get them all back working together, and then they're all moving together as a group. And by the way, I always say we get the people out of there too. That's a big help. All right. So again, another picture of that, and you can tell how hot that fire was. That's one of these markers on the road. Those markers you see, reflectors on the road. You can see that's a plastic marker, and you can see the fire was so hot it melted that marker. All right, this is some algae. I've done an eco peace treaty with this algae. This is again working with the beings of nature. The before shot is here, and then you can see what it looked like afterwards. Well, the whole deal was working with the algae and saying, hey, algae, if you pull back a little bit, then the beings of nature and the water can live and you can live. Okay, that's the whole essence of the whole thing. All right. And the algae said, yeah, that's pretty good. As long as we live, that's fine. So that's what, and you can see on the right there what the picture looked like. Came back about a month later, you can see off to the left there, back in with the algae. I said, what happened, guys? They said, well, they dumped all their fertilizers in the lawn that fed us, on their lawns. It all fed us. Okay. So it's the nitrogen and the phosphorus fertilizers on the lawns. They all dump into the waterways, and that's what feeds the algae. I said again, hey guys, can you just pull back a little bit? Let the algae, you guys can live. The plants in the water can live. Came back 9 days later. You can see that on the right, what had happened, that they came back and were working. But you can see what happens with the algae, and that's a big problem in some areas. And it's with algae, and it's all about pollution. That's what feeds the algae, and they're going to grow. When you have pollution in the water, they're going to grow. They're going to do what they do. Yes, I can do this, but best is not to dump all the pollutants in the water. That's the best thing to do. These are some trees we've done in the Winter Park and Vale area. This was for the pine bark beetle. Great picture you can see off to the left. When we first went there into this forest area, you can see how it looked. All those red trees in there. Well, they were all hit by the lodgepole pine bark beetle. That was before we got there. Okay. Now, over the years, we've kept going back year after year. In fact, the first few years, we went there quite a few times each year to kind of work with them. And what happened is those that died, but the rest managed to live. And again, we did this eco peace treaty with these trees. What was the eco peace treaty about? Well, it was all about, can you guys live the pine bark beetle, can you live in a small area inside of the tree? And you can see the picture here off to the right. That's what they do. What they do is they tunnel in the vascular tissue underneath the bark of the tree. The vascular tissue is right underneath the bark, and they tunnel in there. And what they do is that keeps keeps water and nutrients from flowing up the tree, and it keeps food from moving around the tree. Okay, so what we do is we ask the organism, please, keep yourself in a restricted area. You get to live. The tree will support you. You get to finish your life cycle. Again, mutual healing between the insect and the tree. Okay, you get to complete your life cycle, pine bark beetle. We get to live. Okay, and that's exactly what happened. You can see this tree got scraped, and you can see it's a healthy tree in the two pictures to the right. You can see how nice and healthy that tree is, and yet you can see the tunneling that happened in that tree. Okay, nice, and that's what the pine bark beetle does on those trees. But it was all about bringing back, asking those insects to live in a small restricted area in the trees. And then again, the tree would support the insect. That's how it worked. That was the eco-peace tree. Okay, this is the ash trees. Now we've got, we put in this picture because you had to know this is from Chicago, Illinois. These emerald ash borer came in through the Great Lakes. So this is where they hit first, okay? And then they traveled east. So because we got them here all over the East Coast and even further out west too. They first came through the Great Lakes, and that's why I wanted to show you this picture. And you can see the one on the left there, how the tree looked. Again, it was asking the emerald ash borer, please, can you live in a restricted area? Don't kill the tree. Emerald ash borer were really good about that. They kind of got onto this pretty quick because they just said, we don't really want to kill the tree, because we kill the tree, we kill our food supply. So, and that's right. So in this case, the tree would support them, they'll support the tree. And by staying in a smaller area, the tree gets to live, and they get to complete their life cycle. The insect gets to complete its life cycle and move on. And you can see what that tree looks like in 2021. Understand now, trees don't, you say, well, there's a 6-year time lapse in there. Yeah, but understand that trees don't heal. What they do is they heal on tree time. They don't heal on people time. Okay, people, they're not going to heal in 1 year or in a month. Okay, they take their sweet time about healing, and this is what happened. But you can see how healthy that tree turned out. This is another picture of the, and I've got at least a dozen forest locations, large acreage locations throughout the east here, the northeast. And it's not a real good picture in 214 of this one tree, but I wanted to use this tree. And you can see a nice healthy tree here in 2021. Well, you say, gee, I don't see much of a difference. That's the idea. You don't want to see much of a difference. Okay, emerald ash borer is all around that area. Okay, attacking those trees. Okay, and that's what you want to see. You want to see that those trees aren't hurt, and that the ash trees can go on and survive and live. And that's what this is all about. Okay, a real good example of mutual healing here is this. This was in Montecito, California. After the fire, there was the fire up in Santa Barbara. And of course, the fire couldn't, what was going on in the ecology of the ecosystem was the mountains wanted to be connected to the oceans. People had built too many houses, one on top of the other, crowded the streams, everything at that point. The mountains wanted to connect to the oceans. Now, so the fires burned, and but the firemen could put the fire out before the fire got to the ocean to clear the path. Mother Nature says, yeah, you're not going to win this case. We're going to win. So what she did, she causes mudslides. Okay. And then came the mudslides, wiped out. They said they had boulders the size of RVs coming down that mountain. Okay. With the rains came and just wiped out everything, wiped out Route 101. If anybody knows what Route 101 is, wiped out Route 101. And yes, the mountains connected to the ocean. What's this guy do? He's pointing to how high the mud was on these large live oaks. These are like 150 to 200-year-old live oaks. Okay, so we want to save those trees, and that's how high the mud is. Now, if you leave mud on them that high, the roots can't breathe. So then the trees die. Okay, so it's kind of a real, for the area, this was kind of a real emergency to get the mud away from those trees. Well, they got bulldozers in there, and they could clear some of the mud away. But what they really had to do was do it by hand, clear the mud away by hand around the trees. Because the bulldozers, what they'll do is they'll tear up the bark on the trees, tear up the trees. So what they did is they got a crew in there and to dig out the trees by hand, so that they could get air down to the roots. Then they asked us to come in, would we help heal the trees? And we did. But let me just tell you about this. So I asked that gentleman you were seeing here, we asked him, we said, it was his crew. He brought the crew in to help dig these trees out like this. We asked him, I said, now, when the guys were all done digging out these trees, how did they feel? He kind of looked at me, gave me an odd, strange look. And he said, well, I got to tell you honestly, he says, to the person, they were exhilarated, and that was hard work. And yeah, there's the mutual healing. They were clear on the trees, but the trees were working on the men too.
The people, the volunteers locally.
Yeah. They were working on them as well. So that's what. So there's your example of mutual healing. Okay, and we also did classes there. This is one class we did out there in 218 to work on those trees. We worked on them ourselves and brought a class out there to do some group healing, repeated the same thing again in 219, because these were nice oaks. These are, like I said, 150, 200-year-old live oaks. We wanted to save those trees because they were really in shock after all of this. And so that was what we had tried to do there. Again, giving those trees the path to healing, helping them heal, and some group healing, and the people were all got the mutual healing at the same time. This is some work we're doing in the Adirondack Mountains. Again, this is with the birch trees. Well, the birch trees here, I'm not trying to bring back these birch trees, but just shows you the extremes in climate, what can happen. Okay, you see the species can't take it. Birch, in this case, can't take the extremes anymore at the top of the mountains, so they die back. And what we're doing is trying to work with the other species that are still living and trying to give them that, work with them to bring them back to health so that they're able to survive the climate change as well. So it's kind of a work in progress. Okay, same thing here. This is in the drought area of, this was in Utah. We went up on some of the ski areas, worked in those drought areas this past year, helping out those trees. You can see the spruces there, the effect of the drought on the spruces. Now, in this case, look, they're going to get rain. Okay, they know, well, they may not get rain, they're going to get snow. Okay, so they will get water. Okay, there's no doubt about it. But the point is, okay, just because they get snow doesn't mean the trees are going to instantly live. Okay, because their functionality is so compromised. Their parts and systems are not connected anymore. The community is not connected again. That's what we help the trees to do. So when the water does come, then they're able to start to grow again, take up that water and begin to grow and function and get back into a growth cycle again. All right. This is around Lake Oroville in California. These trees have a double whammy. You can see the drought. You can see how low the lake is there by the side of the lake. You can just see how low that is. And by the way, also, the trees got burned in a fire the year before, okay, in August of 2020, the trees got burned. So they're kind of in a double whammy there. The trees are trying to grow, and they're in a drought situation this year. So it's kind of like working with the two things. How do we work with that? Well, you have the element of water, okay, in the lake. And it's kind of working with the element of water, working with the trees, working with the earth, working with everything, pulling it all together, okay, and getting them all to work together again, and getting that ecosystem back connected again, then the trees will go on and live. And because the water does come, the rains do come. And once the rains come, then they can begin to live. And that's the most important thing. And eventually, the tree, whatever happens with the drought will happen with the drought. And that's what we do there. So anyway.
Thank you so much, Jim. Those slides and your stories give us a really beautiful sense of the depth and the breadth of what you two are doing, which is extraordinary. We will move toward a close of our conversation, but I especially want to hear you two tell us about how people can learn from you and work with you more deeply. I know you have a number of opportunities.
That's exactly what we want to do next is yes, Dr. Jim does something that's very advanced, but anyone and everyone can help the trees directly themselves with simple ways that we've created. So we want to just briefly show you about that. Okay, so our answers: partner with nature, heal ecological damage, do mutual healing. What can you do? Okay, so we call it the 4 C's. The most important thing is to have that connection experience. And I have created a very simple 5-step process to do that. It's available at partnerwithnature.org. But even if you don't do that, you can simply sit with a tree and find out what its life is like in that inner quiet when you're with a tree. The second C is mutual communication. Well, once you've made that connection, then you can start to listen with your intuition and your heart. You can start to exchange messages. And when you exchange messages, you can collaborate. You can ask questions. What sort of questions would you ask? Well, what is your life like? That's the best question. You really hear about it directly from the tree. Another important question about the tree's health: are you making enough food to support yourself? Many aren't. And how can I heal you? Well, we have some recommendations with our mindful methods. And then the 4th C, the 4th step, is co-creating with trees and nature. And Jim has an example about co-creation.
Yeah, I'll do this. I'll kind of do this fast. This lady had these giant spruces right up against her patio. And of course, naturally with these spruces, she couldn't see out of her patio anymore. Well, she didn't want to cut the trees down. So she said, can you help me with this? We'd want to move them, but can you help to make sure that they live? I have a nice piece of land here. Can you help to make sure they live? And I said, yeah. So here's the example of co-creating. Is I work with the trees and I asked them, where do you want to live? And I went to several spots on the land and I said, would you like to live here? No. Would you like to live here? No. Would you like to live here? Yeah, I'd like to live here. Check with the homeowner. Does this work for you? Yeah, this works for me. Sometimes it doesn't. So then you find another area. And that's the co-creation. Work with the plants. Don't assume we know where they should live. Okay. They'll tell us where they want to live. They know. Okay. In this case, I work with the plants. I treated them before they got transplanted. I was not there the day they got transplanted. I treated them the day before they got transplanted. They got transplanted and I came back the day afterwards. And I said to the person that transplanted them, I said, how did it go with the transplant? He said it went very easy. They came out just very easy and moved just really easy. I said, what do you attribute that to? They said, it was quiet for a minute. He said, oh, we thought that was something you did, and it is. And because the plants, they'll move. That's the co-creation with the plants. Don't assume we know. Work with the plants and they'll work with us. Now, like I said, it's kind of give and take. And don't just say, okay, I'm going to put them here. That's kind of, or I'm going to cut this one down, or, that was this woman's choice. she could have just gone through and just cut all these down. There was, quite a few of these there. And she did. She said, I really wanted to move them. So that was what this was all
Yeah.
about. Go ahead.
Great
But it's
example.
co-creation.
Of co-creating. So what can you do? You can use mindful methods, and that will heal trees and ultimately, we believe, restore livability to the planet. So what are mindful methods? We call them healing whispers, and they're specially designed visualizations. So it's a little bit like sending good thoughts. You know someone's sick or in the hospital, you send them good thoughts, right? Same thing here, mindful methods. And how are they done? In that state of inner quiet, through the overlapping bioenergy field and with overlapping consciousness. So we're going to give you one mindful method that you can do with your own trees. So the visualizations are here, these images of how the parts should be connected and how the systems of a tree should be flowing. Everything should be moving. So this is the kind of thing that should start people off with visualizing this kind of connection. And then you do a whisper by saying, be connected, open flow, orchestrate parts, systems, and functions to be in sync, produce enough food, clear blockages, move food and fluids to roots, leaves, and tubes, distribute growth energy where it is needed. So this is something anyone and everyone can do, and that will really help your trees. And there are more mindful methods in your packet if you have purchased the full access as well. So you can heal ecological damage. We are creating courses for people to help trees anywhere. Could be anywhere, doesn't have to be right in their area, drought or fire, could be anywhere in the world. So please join us for that.
And we always say, be humble, come from that plane's point of view. Be in connection, be connected with the plan, be in touch with the consciousness of the plan, ask what its life is like, and come from its point of view.
And we just have a few resources for you. You can get in touch with us at our emails and see our books and go to our websites.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
Thank you both so much. I just want to reiterate for listeners who are probably wanting more that you are offering some of your materials for sale through this event. They can get on your newsletter list and have access to your books, your healing tools, your courses. I am in so much respect and gratitude for your very beautiful, dynamic, and ever-evolving body of work. And thank you so much for sharing it with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Chara.
Sharon.
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you for including us in your conference. We really appreciate that.
And we encourage you so much in your good work as well, bringing people and nature together. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Visit newearth1.com.